Shalom, beloved. As you can already tell by the title of this video, this is a serious, difficult topic to talk about, but it's something that needs to be talked about. I've been aware of it, but it wasn't until something very tragic. A family member of a very good friend of mine, best friend of mine actually, committed suicide. And so after hearing that and just going through the emotions and being reminded of my own struggles with that years ago, I really had it in my heart to do this video about this topic. It is a real issue. It's an epidemic. It's a real epidemic. I believe it's extremely prevalent. I mean, it's all over the world, but extremely prevalent in the United States. I don't have facts to say it is the most common in the United States. I don't really know that for sure. But wherever there's a lot of things, material wealth, it's usually lacking in the real wealth of true love and true care for one another. So it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, with God at the center, you can be a wealthy person and be very happy and blessed. But if you have wealth and you don't know of God and you don't see God's love in your life, you're going to be pretty depressed. So, and again, even people who are surrounded with people who love God struggle, and I'm going to get into that in a bit. So yes, this is a real issue. So if you have struggled with suicidal thoughts, or you know someone who has, I really hope and pray that this is a blessing to you, this is encouraging to you, and I want you to know right off, you're not alone, and you are not to be ashamed. I mean, that's part of healing and getting through it is talking. And really, one of the first things that takes place is that when someone is going through having suicidal thoughts, they're very much isolating themselves, or putting on a display of everything's okay to the world when they're alone, it's quite the opposite. Everything is not okay. So I'm going to share some things that might be kind of hard to swallow, though, if you are dealing with these kind of thoughts. But it's coming from someone who has gone through it as well, so I hope that you are not offended. And if you are, I just hope that you listen to the rest to hear the encouragement of it all. So, first of all, though, when I look back at when I struggled with, it goes with depression. When I struggled with that, it was very self-centered, the thoughts. So I say this not to put down anyone going through having suicidal thoughts, because again, I went through this as well as a teenager. But it's the reality of it. The reality is that when you are in this downward spiral, there's a lot of selfish thoughts. During that time, you're not thinking that, but it's the way that it is. So it's very important to get out of that. And of course, a lot of people ask themselves, they don't know how to get out of that. They just keep, whether it's a trauma or whatever it is that keeps repeating through their mind, they don't know how to get out of it. I understand that. And there's nothing to be ashamed of to seek professional help. But it should be understood that even with professional help, there's only one answer to complete healing, and that is God. And that's not just any religion, it is the one true God and His Word, the Bible. So, yeah. So when I struggled with that, there was thoughts like, well, even for families, like they don't understand, they don't know what I'm going through. And that's true. Not everybody knows exactly what you're going through, but we are all humans, so there is understanding from people. So that was those were thoughts I had. And then accepting the lie from Satan, that the lie was everything's going to be okay, even if I'm not in this world anymore. That was the lie that from Satan, that I was being convinced was true. And that it couldn't be any farther from the truth. Not only was that not true, but every single life that is on this earth is not an accident. Maybe you might think so. I don't know. Circumstances, parents didn't plan that you would be here. Doesn't matter. You're not an accident. You are here for a reason, for a purpose. And we have been designed in such a way that we cannot function quite properly unless God is at the center of our life. And when I say that, I don't mean just going to services and just being a good person. It's deeper than that. It's more than that. If you have been a subscriber for a while, you know that it's a relationship with God, because we do fall and we do wander, but always coming back to the truth. This relationship with God, that's what keeps us alive. And it says in His Word to keep His mitzvot, His commandments, His Torah, keeps us alive, and it's a blessing. It's a delight to do that. So, yes, so you are important, and then it doesn't matter what has happened in your life or whatever you've done. I understand that, again, that you can get into this mindset where it's playing over and over again, but you are more than that, and God can actually use that situation that you've been through to bless another with comfort, encouragement, who might be having gone through the same thing and they're struggling to heal. I understand. I know I've heard of people contemplating taking their life because of, whether something very painful they're going through now or something very painful they've gone through in the past. And when I was during my time of thoughts of suicide, I was struggling with my back and other, just sorrow, just a sadness that couldn't be really shaken off of. I know that people say it's hard to believe when I'm smiling, but that's the other part of it, was that people just didn't know. My family didn't know. Nobody knew what I was going through. And because my back, if you've heard my testimony, of course, was very crooked, and I had to wear a back brace, and long story. So it was a very sad time in my life. So when it got to the point where I was coming face to face with really, preparing to do something really stupid to try and take my life, I've shared this in my testimony. I had a little bird in my room that started to sing really loud, and I knew, well, loud for the bird, because it was a finch. They don't really sing that loud, but the little tiny birds. And it was like it woke me up inside. I knew that God had used my little bird to remind me of my purpose here on earth. My purpose was, if I were to take my life, who was going to take care of that little bird? I was here to take care of God's creation. And of course, in God's creation is God's people. And it was like, it was like waking up, and it was like, and I don't know if it was when exactly it was, but God directed me to the scripture where Rabbi Shaul, Paul, says that our body is a temple of the Lord. And that is where this really gets to the deep stuff, okay? You have to understand that your body, who you are, it doesn't belong to you. When you're in that depression and the suicidal thoughts, it goes back to you yourself. And that's just it. You don't belong to yourself. You belong to God. You are God's property. We are God's property. We don't belong to ourselves. Therefore, how we take care of ourselves, how we treat ourselves, it's reflection of how we are, how we're treating God, really. And once you understand that, it changes everything. Because, it's easy for us to think that we are who we are and we belong to ourselves. But we don't. We don't belong to ourselves. God gave us life, and he can just as quickly take our life whenever he wants to. And it is a sin. It is understood as a sin, and it is just as if one had, committed murder to take your own life. So that was the other thing. Going back to that, I realized that if I were to take my own life, the sound of my bird, I would never hear that again. Because where was I going? Was I going to heaven? No. If I was going to take my life, I knew where I was going, and it was not going to be a good place. And again, of course, God does forgive those who, you hear stories about people in prison who come to know the Lord. But we're talking about suicide. This is actually contemplative murder, which is, of course, in the Torah, it is a sin. In the Israeli army, if you are caught, if a soldier is caught trying to take their own life, they are actually punished for that. Punished for having tried to destroy army property. So I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. And it's more than that. I mean, they're punished for taking their life. So it's definitely a reminder, I don't want to do that again, because, belong to the Israeli army, belong to God. But I do know that I understand there are really deep issues too. And again, having someone to talk to, someone you can trust, is so important. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have someone to talk to. It's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. And with God alone. So that's what I wanted to share, to make an awareness of. Again, if you're struggling, I cannot tell you enough that you are loved. You are precious. I love you, and God loves you very, very much. It doesn't matter what you've been through, what you've done. You are precious, and you are unique in a most beautiful way. As it says in the Word, you are fearfully, beautifully, fearfully, wonderfully made, and that is so true. So remember that, and if you are struggling to see what your purpose here on this earth is, talk to God about it, and he will definitely show you, because you do have a purpose, and he will let you know what it is exactly he wants you to do for him, for his kingdom. I mean, and it's so important, as I said before, to be thankful, to be thinking and praying for others. That is a big part of having a healthy mind, healthy heart. Really just following what God said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. And of course it goes back to loving yourself. You gotta love yourself with God's love. So do that, okay? And smile, be happy, because you are loved. Shalom, shalom. I do love you all. Blessings.